Hello. Good evening. How's it going? All right. Just a couple of things I'll want to say here up at the top. Gonna give everybody a second to get in. For those who are just joining for the first time, this is a new live stream we've been doing this week, where we take callers who have something that they want to get off their chest, or something difficult they want to share about, and we just create an anonymous place for people to share what's going on in their lives. And it's been kind of a twofold theme, which is that people are calling in, sharing about things that they may need support for, or again, things they may need to get off their chest, or just help processing through. And the chat and I have been kind of working in tandem to both just listen and support these people, but also on a few occasions there have been callers looking for specific advice, which, while we're there, I'll take the opportunity to say that this is I will be more scrutinizing in this episode, and possibly going forward, about the types of callers, the types of issues callers are calling in with, and in response to several comments I've seen about just trying to get to the people who really need to talk a bit quicker. We will be trying to get through to the callers who are calling with really important issues, really unique, extreme issues, a bit quicker. So, I think that's a good idea. I saw several people mention that. I think that is a good idea. With that being said, of course, if you have, any problem at all, like, for example, a bunch of people have been calling in with porn addictions. And of course, this is kind of this is, it's not to say that if you're struggling with porn, don't call in, because of course we want to hear from all kinds of people. That's what makes this a unique place, where, it kind of makes us all feel a little bit more human, and also gives, people with extreme stories a place to share about something they may not feel comfortable having their name on. So yeah, there's that. But I will be, from here on out, trying to also give less advice, and just more specifically listen and support and play off the chat, and refer callers to the chat, which has been an invaluable resource, the chat, to these callers after they call in. Some of these stories are just unbelievable, and the chat has been kind of an awesome resource for these people to go back and read through after they're done sharing. And a few callers in the last episode called in with requests for specific advice and feedback from the chat and myself. And, I'm happy to, I think that's a perfectly fine reason to call in. I'm not asking people to not call in if they're looking for specific feedback on something. But at the same time, we do just want to make this a place where people can share about something that they don't feel there's any other place for them to be heard about. So that's kind of what this is. I hope that helps describe it. And we also are going to try taking quick breaks in this episode between the callers, just to give, I know that there's a few reasons I think this will be a good idea. It will, first and foremost, it'll help me in listening to the caller with fresh ears. Jumping immediately into another call after getting off of a call with someone who's just shared a lot of extreme information has been a lot for me to, I feel like it'll just make me a better listener if we take occasional, like, 90-second breaks between the callers. It'll help all of us digest what was just shared and, what it means. And for those of you who may be watching in a group setting, give people a quick second to, discuss any relevant topics that they may be talking about in their own circles, if that makes sense. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. Thank you for that super chat, Centipede. You are awesome. Thank you for supporting this format. And to all the other super chats I missed in the last 2 episodes, because I didn't see them until after the fact. Thank you to all of you who are supporting this. Yeah. Okay, so I've talked for a little bit about some things, some housekeeping things, and now we are going to prepare the phone lines. We're going to turn those on. And we've got a number here, a toll-free number people can call. It is toll-free internationally. So no matter where you are, you can call in. And with that said, we are going to turn on these phone lines. Hi there. Thanks for calling.
Hi there. So this is anonymous. I'm not supposed to say my name, right?
Correct. Yeah, no personally identifying information, please.
Okay. So hi, Julian. My name. Oh, well, yeah. Anyways, I'm
Hi.
currently struggling across the United States. I've been place to place in the past 6 months, and it's tiresome because it's partially not even my choice. It's I have to take what I can get, and what that means is that I was thrown out of my house just a few months ago,
Mm.
and I had a relationship with this beautiful woman named Casey. Um, but we split apart, and that took me into a deep pit of depression, and ended up going back to my house where got kicked out from originally. And managed to talk my relatives into letting me back in, and then I ended up being kicked out once more, and now I'm somewhere across the U.S. again because I lost my car getting over here. I lost I lost a lot of my family. I lost a lot of my friends, and it's just been tough having to be dragging myself just bare bones across the country for so long, and now I'm here, and
Why were
I
you
have
kicked out of
only a
your
month.
parents' house? Sorry to interrupt. I'm just trying to make sure we don't get too far from the original point. Why were you? It sounds like you
No,
were
you're
kicked out of your parents' house, or were you evicted from your own place, or what happened?
I was living in my parents' place. I had a stable job. I had a stable life going on in there, and
Okay.
I ended up getting into some arguments with my parents about rent and fees, and I was able to pay all that. But my parents were enablers, so they would give me money and then demand it right back, and then hold it over my head if I didn't do something for them, and it was very abusive, and we argued about that constantly. And then I ended up being assaulted by one of my aunts, and I ended up having to leave, and there was a police report. It was a whole mess.
So why were
And
you? What caused you to be kicked out of your parents' house?
um I got home from work one night. I was really exhausted, and my parents were the type to just not give you a break. So even though they know I worked like 12 hours a day at a warehouse, moving boxes and putting in orders. I worked so damn hard, and they ended up just getting on my back about you're late on your car payment, you're late on your rent, and I'm like, I know, I'm trying my best to get it up, but I have other fees like bank fees, credit card bills, because I had to spend so much money on fixing my car. and then it ensued a gigantic like fireball of arguments. And what my parents would do, they would bring up the past a lot, and they wouldn't give me credit for anything I did because I did so much around their house. So like so much stuff when they were at work or when they were away. I'd make sure the house was clean. I'd make sure the plants outside were watered. I'd make sure the dogs were fed and walked and everything like that. And I wasn't given the credit I was I was due.
So you sounds like you were misunderstood and you were kicked out of your family's house because of money? Because you didn't have enough money? Was that the only reason? Was there anything else?
Um, it was mostly money and mostly because I wouldn't let them have their way with holding stuff over my head because when they held stuff over my head, I just kind of said, do it because
Hmm.
it's it's not my I'm not going to let myself be tortured with stuff being held over my head. And because they didn't like that, they know they had no more power, so they just went ahead and say get out.
Hmm.
Uh, they had police come and basically served me eviction, even though I received mail there and stuff like that. And there was no official like lease or anything signed or anything of the sort.
Why
But I
did
still ended up being forced out of that home.
wow. Why did the police come and what kinds of this is a two-part question. Why did the police come and what types of things were they holding over your head?
Well, I had a very nice car. I had a 2016 Dodge Charger. It was very nice, and they bought that for me because I had completed high school, and it was a really nice it was a really nice car, and it was a gift. And then they stuck me with payments on it, even though they told me don't worry about it initially when I was given the car. And when they said and I was consistent with payments on that car. I was very consistent. I was consistent with insurance, and I only lagged behind like 1 month because there were repairs needed on the car. There was a tube went bad and the water pump. I had to pay for that, and paying off that credit card with 19% interest is hard, and trying to pay off a car at the same time, it falls apart. And they really pinned it like I was being negligent when I was really just uh behind and basically knee deep in debt because it ended up being like a $1,200 repair, and my card limit was
Right.
$1,100. So
So, wow. So what happened before the police showed up? Why did the police think they were showing up?
the police thought they were showing up because it was a domestic violence dispute, even though I was not violent. Um, it was my aunt who was violent, so I left that out by accident. So after the whole argument ensued, my aunt decided to get involved because she was living in the same house as us, and I'm being yelled at by my parents, mom and dad. Get out, pack your stuff. It's time to go. It's time to go. Like that's all I heard is time to go, like 1,000 times.
And it's all over
And
money.
I'm what's that?
And it was all over money. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all over money. And I was saying to them, this is ridiculous. How could you guys treat me like this when I've done so much for you? And they just keep telling me I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Get out. And I'm packing my stuff, and as soon as I go to grab one of my dogs that I paid for and was registered in my name because I worked hard to get her. My aunt had this bond with my dog, and she was very upset about that. So she came upstairs, and this is gonna sound like way out of a movie, but it's not. I promise you. She came upstairs with a knife and said, "You touch that dog, and I will mess you up." And I ended up having to defend myself and get into a physical altercation with her, and I had to make sure I wasn't going to be harmed. And in the end, I wasn't harmed, but they ended up calling the police and saying I was the one who initiated the fight. But there was a camera inside the living room, and it caught like every bit of that. So the police saw it and knew that I wasn't in the wrong. And I think I just am so glad that that was there because had it not been there, I could have been in jail that night and I could have been the one in trouble. But in the end, it was me who was the victim, not anybody else.
So it sounds like maybe I've missed something, but it sounds like um, your aunt played a role alongside your parents with. Um, I'm still trying to figure out why the police showed up. It sounds like your aunt was involved. Um, you said domestic abuse. It was the police thought they were showing up because of domestic abuse, but
Yeah,
what happened?
my
What was the alleged?
my mom had called. My mom had called because the physical altercation broke out, and
I see.
so the police showed up and they took my side of the story. They took my aunt's
I
and my
see.
mom's, and my aunt, my dad, and my mom were all against me, all throwing me under the bus like I was the person who instigated this altercation that happened. And then I showed them the footage on my phone because I had access to the camera. Little did they know. And the cops saw it, and they arrested my aunt that night, and I was home free. So
Right.
um after all that happened, I finished packing my stuff and I didn't know where to go. I was basically homeless after that. I was roaming the highways of my state and just kind of I was trying to figure out what to do. So I have like all these online friends too because I have a I keep in touch with a lot of my online friends because we have a pool of people who are into the same things we are, like video editing. We're a big group. We've just been friends for a long time, and one of those friends happens to be a lot closer than anybody else. And I'm telling them about what just happened and everything else, and how it's just a whole mess. And my friend says, "Okay, my parents might not like it, but come down here and we'll see what we can do." And I'm like, that doesn't sound. That sounds extremely that sounds a little risky. And they're like, well,
Right.
yeah, but they're cool people, so let's try this anyway.
Right.
So I ended up
Are you okay?
driving
Are you
all
safe?
the way. Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I've got 30 days left here though. It's not a really permanent stay.
I see.
I'm actually headed into the U.S. Army in like a month.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but on my way to, because it was from Utah to Illinois, so um, and as soon as I got to Illinois, my car's transmission had completely died out and the belts had snapped, and it was considered totaled in the driveway. And it was
Wow.
sad because it was such a new car, and I guess I guess it was, we got it from a buy here pay here, so I guess it was kind of a lemon car. And I ended up being carless for a while and having to rely on my friend's parents to drive me to and from work. And after a bit of working, I ended up being able to buy a Ford Escape, and I'm thankful I was able to buy that. And now that I'm in here and I only have 30 days left here, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to get into the army before those 30 days are up, because yeah.
What was the name of, you mentioned a girl that you had a relationship with named Casey, and I'm wondering why that was relevant, or if it was just an aside.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So before I ended up being kicked out, I was staying with this girl named Casey. Knew her for like a year, and um we were it was the most realist relationship I've had, and but it was also abusive as well. That was another abusive relationship, and
Okay.
Casey was the type to hold the relationship over my head if I didn't do something for her. So I was starting to
Hmm.
see this is very familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up, we had it going good for a long while. She was great at first, and then it ended up like devolving, and how it I'm not sure how it got to a point of I'm being manipulated and gaslit, and then being told everything's my fault and that I'm this pathetic person who doesn't want to change for her. But she was trying to get me to change things I didn't want changed about myself because I liked being myself.
Right. That sounds like it was
Yeah.
really hard for you. Sounds like you've had a history of feeling misunderstood in your relationships.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for the holes in my story. It's just that I'm still processing everything. So,
Can I ask how old you are?
um, I am 19 years old. I turned 20 this year.
Thank you in advance for your service to us all here in the States. You said you're going into the Army, so I think that's really admirable.
Yes.
We had a caller call in on one of the first nights we did this who went through, uh, also went through an extreme amount of rejection from his family and went into the Army. I believe it was the Marines. I can't remember specifically, but just really inspiring to see young people coming out of really tragic situations, applying themselves in the best way they can and trying to make the most of their lives and their talents. And so that's a long-winded way of saying thanks for your service in advance, and also for I'm sure that the chat will find that inspiring to hear that you're trying to take new steps to take control of your life. You mentioned this Casey girl as you described your relationship with her as, and I actually am. I wish we had not even attributed a name to this person. In hindsight, it slipped by me. I will get more scrutinizing over things like this. But as I don't know where you are or anything about you, and that the name Casey is a
Right.
rather common one, I'm going to carry on with you. It sounded like you described her as someone who was abusive, and it seems like you described your family as abusive, and I wonder if, and you also said that the relationship with Casey felt familiar, and makes me wonder to what extent you were abused growing up, and to what extent you think you might be attracted to relationships where those kinds of things are possible because, as you put it, it's familiar.
Yeah, and it's important for me to move on from those relationships because now that I'm gone, my family suddenly misses me, quote unquote, misses me,
Right.
and they want me to come back. And I keep telling them, no, despite it being a roof over my head and everything. Who's to say that roof over my head can't be stripped away at any moment the next time?
Right.
And
That's a really brave thing you've done with your family. It's a really brave stance you've taken. It takes a lot of courage.
it's just been happening for so long. The enabling and then the manipulation and then the being gaslit into thinking that it's my fault for everything that happens in that house, even though I was the backbone of that house, taking care of things, making sure stuff was right and in a neat, proper alignment. And then I'm not being given the credit where credit is due, and that's just gone on for years and years and years. And ever since I could remember, I think 13 years old.
Wow. Well, there's a bunch of love going out to you in the chat. Did I just say lunch? There's a lunch. There's definitely not lunch in the chat. There's a bunch of love in the chat. But it's I hope you go back and read it after we're done talking. And you know, you're 19 years old and you're going through an extreme amount of transition. I hope you realize objectively where you are and what that means, and it sounds like you kind of do. I just hate so much that you're going through so much misunderstanding in your family. That sounds really tragic. What would make this a beneficial call for you?
What would make this a beneficial call for me?
Right.
Um, being seeing the amount of support that the chat is giving me, knowing that it's not my fault, and knowing that I'm not in the wrong, because for a while I had to question myself: was I really in the wrong, or was I truly just in the right and I'm being treated poorly? And it feels good to see so many people tell me that my parents had treated me poorly and that I I wasn't it wasn't my fault. And I'm glad everyone's telling me it's a right decision to join the army as well, because I think I feel like that's going to change a lot in my life and get me stable and get my mind clear and get me into a better position, even if it does mean, even if I do get deployed somewhere or war breaks out, I'm at least doing something that has a lot of meaning to my life.
Right.
That gives me a lot to go forward with.
Right. Well, I just want to reiterate, like, none of us here know you, and that's part of the beauty of this format is that anybody can call in and share something anonymously. But, from what you've shared, it sounds like you're under a lot, and it sounds like you're also funneling all that tragedy into something positive for yourself, and I think that's great. And so, again, go read the chat after we're done, and appreciate you calling in and sharing. It seems like the chat has found this helpful as well. So thanks for that. And take care.
Thank you, Julian. I truly appreciate it.
Take care. Okay. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi. I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous.
What would you like to talk about? Toast. Hello. Thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Hi. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, I would like to say that I'm in high school right now,
Okay.
and there is this girl that I've been meaning to talk to, and I've just lacked the confidence for years and years, and I've been very anxious. And sorry, I'm so nervous.
Sounds like you just need some encouragement to put yourself out there and be courageous. What's holding you back?
I really don't know. I think I've been confidence lacking for many years now, actually. Just very anxious, a lot of anxiety.
It's scary putting yourself out there because maybe the person doesn't reciprocate. Maybe they don't like you, right? Is that it?
Well, me and my friends, we've seen her on Instagram and a lot of social medias, and we've seen a lot of proof that she likes me, but I'm not doubting that she couldn't like me. I'm not doubting that possibility. I'm not scared to find out she doesn't like me. I'm just really scared to talk to her.
You don't know what to say, maybe. Is that it?
Yes, yes, sir. That is definitely one of the things.
Sounds like you're in high school. It sounds like you're pretty young, right? How old are you?
I am 14 right now.
14. Yeah, well, that's a pretty natural time to be learning to express yourself and learning to connect with people. I think that what you're going through is very, very developmentally appropriate. And I'm not an expert, but from what I know about being a teenager, I think that where you are makes perfect sense. So you're just trying to understand the world around you and what people have in common with you and how to, be useful and valuable to people. And I can't tell you what that is. I can't tell you how to be valuable to people, but I do think that there's a number of resources for people learning to have small talk. Is that it? You have a hard time with small talk?
Well, the main problem here is the fact that I wouldn't have trouble taking the possibility of her saying no. It's just if I asked her and she would say no, I'd feel fine with that. I just have no idea how I'm going to ask her.
Right. Well,
yeah.
I do think what you're experiencing is a very common issue, and I don't mean to diminish what you're experiencing because I remember being that age. I remember it's really scary. I also think sounds like you need some support from your family maybe, or you're getting a bunch of ideas here in the chat you should go back and read, but it sounds like maybe you need some better support from your family or friends around you, some feedback from them might be helpful. But just know that this is a very developmental part of life, and that everybody has to learn how to get over these awkward things. But maybe that's helpful to you in and of itself, just knowing that it's normal, and then knowing that everybody kind of goes through this experience of learning to connect with people, and it's very awkward at first. It can be very awkward, but once you learn to apply yourself and what you're good at and how to apply that, and also how to genuinely be interested in what people have to offer you, these are all things you'll be learning here in the coming years. So don't be discouraged. But there's some good ideas in the chat. Go back and read them.
Okay, that's some pretty eye-opening advice, Julian. I'd like to thank you for that advice.
Cool, great. Well, I'm glad you called in and shared. Call back anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
I'd like to, oh, sorry.
What's that?
Oh, I would like to support the stream.
Oops. I accidentally hung up on him. I had my thumb on the hang up button, and I was holding it down while you were finishing your statement as to not actually initiate the hang up. So I'm so sorry that I just toasted you accidentally. That does not count as our first toast. That was just, I was going to hang up and it happened too quickly. Okay. I'm going to turn the calls back on. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hi. What do you want to talk about?
Wow. Okay. I want to talk about my mom. I guess more family issues.
Okay, your mom. What's up with your mom? Whoops.
Yeah, so for like the past 20 years or so, my mom and I, looking back and reflecting on it, it was a pretty unhealthy dynamic.
Okay.
And very manipulative and abusive and just not good overall. And I didn't see that until I was a couple years ago, and an event happened that eventually made me stop talking to her completely, and I cut her out of my life 100%. Yeah, and
you went no contact with your mom, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And it's been like 2 years, and I've been doing significantly better in my personal life, and there's no denying that. But at the same time, I struggle to deal with the fact of, like, yes, my mom has severe mental issues, mental illness issues, but she also tried to do the best that she could with what she had, and like trying to separate those two things, and reconciling with that, like what's best for myself, but also knowing like she's a person and needs support, but like I can't drag myself down. It's been hard to kind of grapple with that whole thing,
Man, it sounds like you really thought about this a lot. Sounds like this is years of processing, and it sounds like therapy talking. Is that therapy talking?
No, actually, I've never
therapy.
Gone to therapy, and that's not for a lack of wanting to. It's just I don't have good insurance and financial situations and things like that. I would love to, but yeah, it's just years of self-reflection, I guess self-awareness of my situation.
Right. A lot of people don't understand that, we had a caller call in the other night who was talking about some mommy issues, and, it's pretty strange how few people. Maybe it's just super rare. A lot of people don't have a slot for people who have mommy issues, but a lot of people, I think it's because a lot of people mostly have, if they have an issue with any parent, it's usually their dad. Dads usually have the most, they're the most assertive typically and things like this. So I just want to acknowledge and recognize that you're going through a really unique scenario where you've gone no contact with your mom. Makes me wonder if you're no contact with your dad or your whole family. How has this affected your family?
I'm still in contact with my siblings and my father.
That's good.
And we get along. Yeah, we get along great.
How is that possible?
It, just because I think, we're all in our 20s, well, except for my dad, obviously, but all of my siblings and I were like, fully mature adults and older. And so like we've had time to reflect on it. My older brother and I were completely no contact, but my other siblings, they still have some contact with her, but we just kind of don't bring up the situation when we are together. We all kind of like live off on our own and are doing our separate things. So it's not really, it's like a sore spot we all kind of grew up with in that environment and don't really talk about it too much,
I see. So you're able to have a surface level relationship with your dad and your siblings, but it doesn't sound like it goes too deep. Is that right?
I would say so, but it's also, I mean, I guess it's not hard. We could carve out time to make calls. That's what my dad does with his brothers. But yeah, we don't necessarily reach out. It's just like the couple of, holidays, birthdays, get-togethers when we catch up. But it's definitely not deep interaction.
Does it feel like there's an elephant in the room or something like that? It feels like maybe you've had this confrontation with your mom and it's not being addressed. Does it feel like that?
Possibly, yeah. Like I told my dad, no contact. My dad thought that it was a little bit harsh and to kind of be a little bit more open and receptive to things. And I kind of shut him down on that and decided it was the best for me to just not get involved with it at all.
Right. So what would make this a beneficial call for you tonight? I appreciate you calling in and sharing. It sounds like this is, the chat is lighting up, and it makes me think that maybe this isn't as rare, at least within my own circle, as I thought it was. It does sound. I mean, the no contact thing is definitely rare. People with mommy issues is what I'm talking about, not being rare. And it seems like people in the chat are posting some similar experiences, so that's encouraging to see. But yeah, the fact that you're no contact with your mom is that's intense, and it does seem good that it hasn't affected the rest of your family, that the rest of your family is able to see past that and continue at least seeing you and having a regular relationship with you. So yeah, so again, how can the chat and I be valuable to you tonight?
I guess just getting here, being so I like to contemplate and reflect on things. So if I can just get ideas and people's opinions of staying no contact, possibly opening up that line of communication. And I understand not everyone has the full context, but there could be things that I haven't seen from a certain perspective or angle that somebody else could bring up. So that would be the most valuable thing if anybody's willing to share or throw in their input and chat. But yeah, that would be a huge help.
Yeah. Well, it is. There are some things in the chat that might be helpful for you to read. I'm not sure if you're following along with that while we're talking, but I will repeat that. I hope that's helpful. And then I will also reiterate that it's a really rare scenario when you go no contact with your parents. People don't want to do this kind of thing. It's a handicap in a lot of ways. You don't have those people there that are supposed to be your primary support system. It's an acknowledgement that your primary support system is not a support system, which is tragic. And I feel so many things for you because I have experience with being in that place, and I know how confusing and difficult it can be to feel like you're supporting yourself and that there's a person missing. That's really hard to deal with. So I just want to, I don't know if that helps or not, to hear some empathy from someone who knows what that's like, but I really feel for you. That really, I know that sucks. That's really hard.
I appreciate all the kind words, Julian. It does mean a lot, and everybody else's time. I appreciate it, and thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, so call back anytime if you want to talk more about this. Thanks for calling.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Yep.
All right, guys. We're going to take a 2-minute break to digest the last few calls, and to give me a second to kind of refresh my memory and just kind of reset so that I don't mix up details from different callers. So we'll be back in 90 seconds, about 90 seconds. Here we go. All right. I'm going to take a second to revisit the chat, see what is going on here. That's great. Great to see. Thank you guys for supporting these callers with me and for hearing them out. All right. We're going to turn the calls back on. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you tonight?
About all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
So, I want to hear your ideas and thoughts, but the current thing I've been working with is figuring out air of validation to find validation in something that I am doing, a part of being, from people outside of that group. So, like, for example, let's say you're a comedian, and every comedian you know is like, yeah, you're doing great. This is fantastic. You're doing great stuff. But you don't get any positive reinforcement or validation about what you're doing from anyone else. Like, everyone else is kind of either neutral or doesn't really have an opinion about it. And the search to find validation in the thing that you're doing from friends, family, who are not part of this community is causing some angst, some hurt, because you, I don't know, you want to be seen, but you are seen, but the brain is kind of messing with what's valuable, right? Is having your coworkers, people in the same field, as much validation that you need, or do you need to feel validated from people who are more closer to you?
Right. Sounds like you're you're pouring yourself into something, and you're pouring yourself into different things and not being validated, and you're struggling to um, receive feedback from family and friends. Is that the issue?
Yeah. So what went down was that there's like a part of my life, just you know, just me in general, and there's a lot of facets of it that, and I already have done this, but there's a lot of things that like you have certain friend groups for, right? Like you have your group of friends who does this, your group of friends that does that. You hang out with them separately, and then there's just this urge to be able to share the things that you do with each of these groups with the other ones. And then when you try to do that, you get shut down or they're not interested. And sure, I as someone who can think about this critically, I understand like there's no reason why I'm going to go I'm going to go to my like friends who like baseball and like talk about baseball and so great, and then go over to like my football friends and be like, oh my gosh, look at all the cool baseball stuff. They're not going to care as much, and I understand that. But there's this hurt, particularly with me, where I particularly did something like that with a group of friends, and they really shut me down, and I have to like I, I understand that my emotions about the situation are the emotions, but to understand that it's okay that not everyone in my life can feel good for me it's hard for me to work with the idea that there's people who I love and adore and hang out with who I cannot get that same love and validation from. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're struggling to apply yourself in a way that you feel is valuable. Is that it? Does it feel like I'm not trying to lead you into saying yes, so tell me if I'm wrong, but
Sure.
I'm just trying to understand if this is like you're fishing for your value in the world and trying to figure out how to apply yourself, and you're not receiving the validation you need as a signal to continue down each path. Is it something like that?
That sounds that's a good summarization of it, where it's let me see if I can find a good example. Um, a part of you, right? Something that you're really passionate about, something that's very like, core to your identity that you're really into, and the people that you're currently surrounded with do not vibe with that same kind of group, right? You hang out with people who are like, well, water bottles, but all your friends have already been like anti-water bottle your whole life, kind of thing. So if you go like, oh man, I'm really passionate about this thing, but all the people I'm surrounded with don't like this, I'm gonna go find my own little new group, right? So
Right.
now I'm extending myself to that new group, and I'm working with that new group, and I'm moving away from what I've known. And I guess this is the thing that I guess like the hard topic that I'm trying to like describe is just like the idea that I am removing myself from the things I'm so familiar with and people who I've been around with so much, being like, all right, you guys aren't fulfilling what I need anymore, and I have to like back away from people who I've known for so much. He's like, is that okay? Like, I guess it's just more like it's hurting my heart, where I have to like, all right, so y'all can't hang with what I can do. I have to move on. But man, it's hard. It's really hard to think about like I don't know. It's interesting to have such a big life change where you have to move yourself away from people who you've been around for so long to be able to feel currently validated for just the way that you change over time.
What kind of validation do you feel you're being deprived of? Is it financial validation? Are you having a hard time figuring out how to apply yourself in ways that results in income? Or is it like you're seeking compliments or direction
I,
from friends? Or what is it?
mm, mm, it would
Are you
be
paying
kind
your
of
bills?
like say again.
Are your bills paid? Sorry, that's like a follow-up
Oh
addendum
yeah,
question.
oh yeah, they are.
Okay,
That kind
okay.
of validation is not what I'm looking for. The validation I'm kind of searching for is like hey, what you're doing, really cool. That's totally okay. You're fine. No problems. You're doing good. Like the idea of that, what's like, I'm doing all these new things doing new stuff, hanging out with new people, putting all this energy into stuff, and I just need like my friends to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm all about that. I want you to succeed, but I'm not getting that, so I have to change. Be like, okay, I'm not gonna like stop the new things I'm doing. I'm not gonna stop hanging out with these new people
Right.
and try to force myself to get validation from people who I've been with for so long. Be like, all right, well, I need to move on. And I guess it's more of a conversation of just feeling okay with letting older people in your life just go. You have to move on to new things. It's a hard thing to break up with so many people who you've known. I don't know if you've experienced something like that where you've had to move away from a whole lot of people
Yeah.
and put yourself into a new situation. Go like these people understand me more. These people get me more. I can be more myself here. I can do that. But I
So
have
this is a
like
separate
childhood
issue.
friends who are like, hey, gotta go.
So this is a whole other issue, it sounds like. I mean, you're talking about not feeling validation from your social circle, but now you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
have you reinvented your social circle? Have you cut people out? Are there people that are no longer there for you that used to be there for you, or that have stopped being there for you, or what's the deal?
Oh yeah, yeah. I had so in my particular slice of life, I have this wonderful polycule of people who I am very much friends with, and 5 people who live in the same house. And I went over and I tried to get advice from all of them and try to understand. I had a lot of stuff going on at one time, and I valued the friendship higher than they valued the friendship. So when I poured out my heart to them, and like, hey, I really need help with this idea. I got all this hard stuff. They shut me out. They sent me like a really weird message, like we don't really want to have your drama in the house. And I took it pretty bad. But these people who I valued really high, apparently valued me really low. And I had this
Mm-hmm.
big break of like, okay, well, oh my gosh, like are there more people who I'm like talking to and hanging out that I value really high that maybe I'm not, and I'm not getting help from the people who I thought I would get help from, and that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I
Well,
switched over. Go ahead.
so a bunch of questions are coming to mind.
Yeah.
Uh, if you don't mind answering, first of
Mhm.
all, I'll reference from the chat. The true friends, no matter what, they'll make the effort. That comes from
Yeah.
Offcore in the chat, which I agree with, and it makes me wonder. I was thinking a similar thing, which is it that you just have friends around you that are you being attracted to unhealthy types of friendships, or because that, the last caller had a similar issue where, um, they were they came from a toxic family house and then were attracted to a toxic kind of romantic relationship, and I'm wondering if there's a similar theme here where you do you think it's possible you could be naturally attracted to unhealthy friendships and friendships, I've read a bunch
Yeah.
on how this is like a thing, and I'm going to struggle to remember what the name of it is, but it's a principle in psychology where we are conditioned by our family house, and then we're attracted. That's what we look for. We validate that ourselves. That's how we validate a relationship. Is we look for people who feel familiar in that way, and
Mhm.
and then we use that as a way to kind of, it's like a negative form of validation where we're looking to validate that that's true because that's all we have to compare it to from childhood. So it's like a long-winded way of saying, is it possible you're attracted to people that are not ultimately going to give you the recognition you deserve or something like that?
Yeah. And that's the thing I'm kind of struggling with, and like I kind of having a realization because I'll sit there and I have all these wonderful friends, a nice social group, and then when something tough comes up, like I agree with off course comments when talking about how you know when the tough stuff comes up, who's sticking around and trying to help? Like like the famous line from Letterkenny: "When friends ask for help, you help them," right?
Right.
So and that's what I've been trying to dealing with. But by doing that, by thinking about that, I have to sit there and go, well, now I'm taking like all these people who I asked for help and they didn't help me. And do I go, all right, well, I gotta value them differently, man. These people who I've known forever, who I thought was really good. It's like having multiple small breakups, right? Where
Yeah.
I put all my heart and soul and trust into these people, and then I let it all out, and then don't they don't acknowledge information the way I would think they would, and then they shut me out, and it breaks the heart, and I have to sit there and deal with all these friends and go, okay, well, I had a lot of emotional stake in you, and now I have to throw it away. And then, of course, the brain goes through the cycles of like, wow, well, kind of like a breakup where
Right.
I wasted all this time, wasted all this energy, and I understand that, like, like for when this wasn't the problem of having a good time, and the choices I made or the choices I did, and I did them, and I was happy with them then, and I should respect the older version of me for making those decisions, and it just sucks, and I'm dealing with a lot of that kind of heartache of just thinking about all these people who aren't supporting me, who I thought would be able to support me, and it sucks. It's a crazy realization.
Right. Professor Stalky, I hope it's not Stalk. Professor Stalk, that sounds like an oxymoron, from the chat, says, I rarely got approval or validation from my parents, and I started dating people like that, and it sent me into a deep depression. We need to seek other relationships that don't keep us in the past. And that resonates with me, and sounds like what you're going through too. I really hate that you're experiencing that, but that can be a really confusing thing. It's like walking around a dark room trying to figure out where the walls are. Trying to figure out who you can trust, and I hate that you're wrestling with some relational stuff where you're struggling to figure out how to connect with people. Is it that is it simply that people aren't validating what you're good at, or is it a deeper thing where you're like you're not connecting with them at all? Like what you just said a second ago makes me think it's maybe something more than just not getting validation. You said you've put so much energy into things, and you don't seem like it ever there's ever any reciprocation. I wonder what there is to that.
It's I don't know. It's the thing that comes to mind is like if you're in a room with people, like mutual friends of friends, they're hanging out at a party, and you have that one guy goes, man, I hate the color red. Red sucks. Oh my god, red's the worst. In the back of your mind, going, dang man, red's my favorite color. I'm not gonna bring it up though. You kind of have this apprehension of like, I'm not gonna talk to that guy who talks about red that way. No, thank you.
Right.
I'm okay. It's the kind of same thing where these you'll hang out with someone, you'll become mutual friends with them, things will go on, and then like randomly multiple years later they'll go, yeah, well, I hate the color red. You go, oh my god, hey, I've known you for like 7 years, this never came up for whatever reason, and now this sucks. Now have you always hated the color red? And they go, yeah, and I go, oh, okay, red's my favorite color. They go, what? I go, it's kind of this dichotomy of like coming across all these people who are like, okay, well, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing, and I go, I hate that thing. I go, what? Oh, well, okay. And sure, I mean, I understand the idea of like I can just walk away from these relationships, but it's all that time, effort, and energy that I put into them. I love my friends.
It's hard walking.
It sucks.
Nobody wants to walk away from a relationship. That's one of the hardest things people go through. That's why breakups are so hard. That's why you're comparing this to a breakup. I hate that you're experiencing that. Well, is there anything more that would specifically make this a valuable call for you? Is there anything the chat and I can, what can we do to make this a valuable call?
What I'm trying to look for is the best way to kind of calm the mind, right? Sit there and go, hey, these situations suck. We're deep breathing. We're going through it. We're going to think about it. But just having I don't know. I would love to hear people in chats ideas of like hey, I had the hard thing. This thing helped me keep me motivated to keep going through all the hard stuff to get right back out. Because like, sure, I can think of the short side stuff. Oh yeah, life's gonna be better. But still have to deal with the pain now.
Right. Well, there's a bunch of thoughts going out to you in the chat.
And a few of them, they're lovely.
Right. Yeah, the chat's lovely. Love the chat. Love those guys. And also, grateful that you would call in and share in this way. And I hope it's helpful for other people to hear what you're going through. Relationships are hard. They're really tricky. Sometimes we never know what goes wrong with them. Takes two to tango.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for talking, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks for calling in. Call back anytime. Take care. Okay. Gonna open up these phone lines again. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hi. What do you want to talk about?
So I'm going to be graduating college in the next couple of months. Well, my ceremony's in a few weeks, and I'm wondering if I should invite my estranged father.
Interesting.
Yes.
Why are you estranged from your father?
Well, so he cheated on my mother with a woman who's my age and left us. And it was totally out of left field, and we haven't spoken for 2 years in the wake of the pandemic, but he recently reached out, and I'm wondering if this would be a good olive branch.
You cheated on your mom with someone your age.
Yes.
That must have been really confusing to go through.
Oh, it was. It's been a rippling effect through my life for many years.
What did that do to your family when that came out?
It ripped us apart. It ripped us apart. My family hasn't been the same as a result, because it totally was something that we had never expected to happen. I came home from college, and my siblings who were still home at the time, we all sat down. We had a really nice family dinner, and then my dad turned to me and said, "I've decided to divorce your mother." And we'd been such a happy family before that time that it's honestly, I had the ideal family. My parents were so in love, and so I don't know what caused it, but I've kind of made my peace with that bit of it now, just like the fact that it happened. But what's really weighing me down now is, how do I reconcile the man that he is with the man that he was?
Right. How's your mom with your dad? Has she forgiven him? What would it be like if your dad came to your graduation and your mom was there? Would your mom, I'm sure your mom, sounds like your mom's the more supportive one. Sounds like you haven't cut her out, or you haven't been estranged from her. So I'm guessing your mom's going to be at the graduation, and I'm wondering what she would think of your dad being there. Not that it's about her, but just trying to I'm trying to imagine the dynamic of what's going on here.
Well, my mother is different in the wake of everything. He balanced her out, and now there's not that pendulum anymore.
I see.
But I love her, and she'll be there, but they have a very strained relationship. My father wasn't exactly kind when he left, taking the house, taking all the assets. My mom was not, my mom was a homemaker our whole life, so she didn't have any really skills to fall back on in that sense of money. So it's been really tough for her in the years that have passed.
I see.
But I guess that doesn't answer your question. But I believe it would be tense.
Yeah.
If my sister's graduation is anything to go off of.
Your dad was there at your sister's graduation, is that right?
Yeah.
And it was tense.
He was. It was tense.
Was it tense because how much older is your sister? Was her graduation going down when things were more tense? Have things settled down?
Yes, so it was. It's settled down in recent years, but then came, in the wake of the pandemic, I was calling him fairly frequently because it was scary when everything first broke, and I didn't know what to do, and I was all by myself out at college, and then suddenly radio silence. I called him every day for 2 months, and he didn't pick up once. But then in recent months, he's reached out again, but it was 2 years, like my birthday, everything passed and not a word from him. And so it was almost like him leaving a second time. And so I'm worried now that if I have this endless capacity to love, I've been told, but in that I have an endless capacity to be hurt, and I don't want to be hurt again.
Right. You're in a really tricky spot. I feel for you, and there's already a bunch of love going out to you in the chat, and I'm thinking about some personal experiences and trying to think I mean, your situation's so different. I mean, being in a situation where one parent cheats is serious. That's very confusing. And it does sound hopeful that you said things have calmed down a little bit since your sister's graduation. So maybe your dad could come to the graduation.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be good. But I don't know the history of. Yeah, you said one of the first things you led with was that you were a really happy family before all this happened. So it makes me wonder if you have good memories of your dad, if you feel like there's a bond there that is natural between you guys that was just abruptly lost, or if it was that you grew up not feeling a connection with your dad and he was always kind of this person that you didn't understand and didn't understand you. And, those would be two different scenarios in my mind. I'm just trying to understand your situation.
I understand. I just dropped you into this, but I would say that I didn't connect to my father as well as I connected to my mother. My mother and I are very similar in personality, and my sister and my father are very, very close, or they were, and she's been hurt by this exponentially more than I have because of that close bond. I always felt loved. I never want to rewrite history and say my father didn't love me or anything like that, because I had always felt loved. And but in the wake of this, but my father was never a man for words. It was always actions that he did, driving me to my sports practices or things like that, coming to games, coming to whatever I was participating in, being present. And now, but that was how he showed love, and now his presence is like completely, he lives on a different coast, and he's married her. He's married the woman he left us for. But so to surmise, I guess there is kind of that want of love for his presence to be there again, and for me to invite him, and then for him to not show up. I don't know.
You think he won't show up if you invite him? He came to your sister's wedding or graduation. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm scared that he won't show up because my mom's side of the family is big, so I know if I invite, I'll invite my mom, and then she'll want to, my grandmother will come, and then my aunt and uncle will want to come, and and I love that. I love that they'll want to be there, but it will seem very much like an us versus him, and I don't want it to be like that, and I feel like he can feel cornered and then not want to come.
Sounds like you really want him to come, and you're scared that he won't if you invite him. Do you want him to come? Would you like to have your dad back in your life, even though it's been a confusing time?
Yes, but I don't want to be rejected. I don't handle rejection well.
Well, I mean, so what are you looking for? Are you looking for some thoughts from us, or are you looking for just some support and encouragement? What's gonna make this a helpful call for you?
Okay. Well, I don't want you to tell me yes, invite him, or no, don't invite him. I think what I just want is that is it worth it to open yourself up to that sort of pain? Is the work of loving someone enough to be enough to? Am I articulating this?
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Is it worth it?
I would say that's dependent on if there's reciprocity in the relationship. Is your dad good at reciprocating your personal contributions? Does he, show up in the way you show up in the relationship, or has he just been, completely MIA since this infidelity? What's he like? Is it a good investment? Is it a good relational investment?
He's a stranger, but he looks the same, if that makes sense. And I feel like there's almost this need for me to see the man that he was. But I guess that it is worth it, because maybe I can get to know the man that he is and find something inside of him to still love. Right.
I mean, I'm thinking based on what I've heard that it's worth it. And I think that it's amazing what a conversation can do, what calling someone and just telling them everything you just told us Like, I can't imagine I mean, actually, I can't imagine I can imagine some people like this, but it's hard to imagine a person who would not hear what you just told me. I don't know if you know what way to say that to your dad, to communicate those things, but there's got to be a way for you to call your dad and tell him everything you just told us.
I think you're right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that helps. Thanks for calling. Call back if this continues to be an issue.
All right. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take another one, and we'll take a short break. I'm going to turn some phone lines on here. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello? Toast. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I've had some like really bad problems with my dad.
Okay.
I just kind of want to talk to somebody about it, and I've like tried contacting help phones and stuff like that. They didn't even respond.
What's going on?
I'm just worried that like he's an alcoholic. Like he has really, really bad anger issues and abused like me, my brothers, my mom, and I'm just kind of worried that I'll turn out like him. If that makes any sense.
How old are you? You sound young.
13, almost 14.
Do you have a reason to suspect that you have tendencies like your dad does? Alcohol can be a really... Sorry, you answer that question first. I'm sorry.
Sorry, what was the question again? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Do you have a reason to believe that you're going to turn out like your dad?
Yeah, I have horrible anger issues. And I lash out a lot. I'm extremely bipolar. I'm just kind of like him in some ways, and I'm worried that because of the way he fathered me, I'll end up being like that to my kids, and I don't want to end up like that, like turn out like that.
Well, you're young. You're pretty young. You're not a little kid by any means. You're a teenager.
Yeah.
You seem very self-aware. You seem very responsible. It seems I hear a very responsible person on the phone telling me concerns they have about their own well-being. You're concerned about your own well-being. You want to be you want to be a positive person to the people around you. It doesn't sound like I'm talking to someone who wants to repeat the mistakes of their parents. Is that accurate?
No. Yeah.
Well, that's a great start.
Yeah.
I mean, you said you have some anger issues. You said you have extreme you suffer from bipolar.
Yeah.
Are your speakers on? I'm having a hard time. I'm hearing like an echo or something. Do you have speakers on you can turn off?
Sorry, I have your stream on right now.
Yeah, if you could mute that'd be great. Since I'm here on the phone.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate with this. There's a lot of support going out to you in the chat already. But I think a lot of people, I think it's normal to be around that age, and you're starting to observe your parents objectively, and you're starting to try to figure out which one you identify with most. And that can be, I think that's a pretty normal thing. I think it's great that you're aware that you've got some things to work on in yourself. Everybody has things to work on in themselves. That's normal.
Yeah.
Sounds like your dad specifically has been kind of avoidant to deal with problems in himself and is masking some things through alcohol, maybe. You said he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So, I just want to give you some empathy and some sympathy for the abuse it sounds like you've endured. It sounds like your dad's really rough with you and your family. I'm really sorry to hear that. And the chat's sorry to hear that. I'm not sure if you're following the chat while we're talking. But you, yeah, go back and read it when we're done. But I'm glad you called in because I think you bring up a good you have a valid concern. You're someone who's nervous about turning out like your parents and repeat. You don't want to repeat the mistakes your parents are making. That sounds really clear to me. So I just want to encourage you that you have that conviction already, and that's a great place to be at your age. And so I'm not saying don't be concerned. I think you should keep that concern. I think it's healthy to have concerns about ourselves and to work on them. But are you on medication for your bipolar stuff? Is that something you're working on already, or is like what helps with that?
I don't really know anything that's helped with it necessarily. I'm not on any like medication or anything like that. I just, gonna be going to the doctors and stuff.
Do you have a doctor that is working through your bipolar issues with you?
Kinda, yeah. It's kind of a therapist.
Oh, great. It's like a...
Yeah, kind of at my school.
Oh, okay. They give you medication, or what do they have you do?
Mainly just talk to them. Mainly just like talking to them because medication won't really help. I don't know, nothing really seems to help at all, actually.
Jamie Rain from the chat says, the caller, she's kind of echoing the similar sentiment I'm making, so I'll repeat it so that you don't think I'm making it up. She says, I believe it's a she. She says, the caller sounds really young, and to have that realization and desire to not repeat an abusive cycle at such a young age is a good sign. The earlier, the better. So I'm not alone in thinking that this is a really good sign you're aware of these things. And I'm actually not concerned about you at all, and I hope that's encouraging to hear. Obviously, this is an anonymous place, and I don't know your full story. I know only what you've shared, but I don't hear someone who is, you sound like somebody who's really thought through this and is really concerned about it. It's the people, the more avoidant types that are more problematic and more worrisome, because these are the people that never question things. And if you never question something, then there's nothing to work on. But you don't sound like an avoidant type. You sound like someone who is gonna work on this. And so I think that's great, and I think it's great that you're calling in and sharing it, especially at such at the age that you are. I think that's a great sign.
Yeah, I've been trying to work on, like, I've asked a couple of friends to help. I don't have many, but the ones that I do, I've been asking them to, like, if they can in any way help me with my anger, like if I end up lashing out or anything, if they could help me.
That's great.
Because I don't necessarily know what to do about it. It's kind of like, I don't know, I just always have to get the last word in. I'm super stubborn. I cannot take, when things don't necessarily, like, when things go against me, I am just super angry, and sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You get super angry,
super
you said.
Angry.
Yeah.
I say some things that I don't mean. That's why I don't have many friends, because I lost all of them due to it. And people at school purposely try to aggravate me. I don't know why. Some of them have even admitted. Yeah, just...
When we grow up with bad role models, it can be confusing to figure out how to apply ourselves in productive ways. If you grew up with an avoidant father, if you grew up with someone who wasn't really there and didn't really listen, wasn't really attentive, then it's possible that maybe you just don't have a guide for how to be yourself. I think our parents are responsible for installing our operating system, is kind of how I like to think of it. Like we all have an operating system, and our parents help us install that. And our parents install whatever operating system they're running. And so it's kind of, it's the responsibility of every adult to kind of audit themselves and look at what they've learned from other people, including their parents, and look at what they've got to work on and work on those things. And you're doing that at 13. So I just want to keep encouraging you that this is a good sign, and that, and I'm not saying you should let yourself off the hook. It sounds like you've got some things to work on. You're being very honest, and that's amazing. I think it's amazing you've identified these things at the age you are, and I think you've got plenty of time to work on these things. I'm not worried about you a bit. I think this is great to hear, and I hope it's great for the callers to hear. I'm encouraged by you. I wish there were more people like you.
Thank you.
What would make this a beneficial call?
I think just talking about it, because I haven't had many people to talk to it about, and I just wanna, just kind of feel better talking about it to somebody, and just knowing that, and just getting some reassurance that that I'm doing good. I don't know how to really explain it, just that I'm kind of...
That you're not weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound weird to me. It sounds great. You sound like an exceptional human. Sounds like you're really thinking about these things. I'm inspired by people like you who see what they have to work on and can identify it. Even if it's on an anonymous call like this, I think it's great.
Yeah.
More power to
Thank you.
Thanks for calling in. Call back anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Good night. Wow. All right, guys, we're going to take a short break just to kind of realign, reset, take a minute, and we'll be right back. All right. Okay. Let's turn these lines back on. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, what's up, Julian? I just want to say first, before I start, you were the first ever YouTuber that I watched like all of your content back to back. So it's kind of cool all these years later that I'm, having a phone call with you. But
thanks for the support.
So I've kind of put myself into a predicament, I guess you could say, if you can even call that. So just some backstory. Tw-
I'm sorry, we're having a connection issue. Are you in a good signal area to talk?
I think now should be better.
Okay, great. Can you start over? I kind of missed the first part.
Okay. Like from the very beginning?
Just scoot a couple sentences back, if you don't mind.
Okay. I've kind of put myself into, I guess maybe you can call it predicament, but I'm pretty sure there might be some people in chat that have gone through a similar situation than I've been. It's nothing too crazy, and I'm actually grateful that, it's not a huge problem, but it's kind of like a advice situation. And so there's this, woman that I've met, through school, as you do, you just go about your life and you meet people, but we've kind of, started a kind of romantic connection, but I'm not sure how this is actually going to end up because we found out that we had feelings for each other, but she said she wasn't ready. And of course, like I'm going to respect whatever she says, but with that, we've been involved with each other, like, pretty much we're basically like in a relationship, but we just don't call it that. So I guess friends with benefits type situation. But it could either go two ways. Like we can start dating until she's ready, or it may never happen. And like this is a person that I care for a lot. It's not like I'm not like lusting after her. It's a genuine, care for her. But is it kind of not a good idea to continue down this path, or should I be waiting? And it's just kind of a complicated thing. And if you have questions, like I'm willing to fill in the blanks, but I just kind of need advice on this.
Yeah. Well, we never know. We don't always know why people can't commit to things. Some people have commitment issues, and some people, I don't think that on a call, on a single call like this, we'll be able to determine what's going through this other person's mind.
Maybe just some like feedback from the chat at least, because I've kind of tossed it around in my mind a lot. But we see each other basically every day. We do activities that any good friend. We're each other's best friend essentially, but we also partake in activities that people in a relationship would do. But like if Chad has advice like don't do this, or just wait it out, or maybe just don't catch feelings, I don't really know where to go. I just want to be maybe oriented in the right direction,
Right. Well, I would, if you're asking, it sounds like you're asking, and I mean, you haven't shared very much. This call has only gone on for just under 4 minutes. So again, with limited information, it's hard to know how to be useful in this specific case. But I do think that, again, sometimes people have commitment issues. This sounds like maybe a commitment issue. That's the one term that keeps coming back to my mind just from the little bit you've shared, is that maybe it could be a commitment issue. It sounds like she's interested in you. You said you're doing pretty much everything that constitutes a relationship, except for calling it a relationship, calling it a commitment. A lot of people are like that. A lot of people want relationships but don't want to have the exclusivity of a relationship. So if that's what you're up against, I would say I would be really questioning why a deeper connection isn't possible with that person. Are you attracted? Is there some attraction issue? Are you attracted to unhealthy types of relationships? This is a recurring theme I'm starting to recognize between callers. There's a lot of people who have an attraction issue that they're kind of discovering through these sessions with the chat and these calls, where they're kind of realizing this relationship style I'm attracted to is very similar to my childhood, or very similar to the way that so and so used to treat me, or could this possibly be some kind of attraction issue where you're attracted to unhealthy relationships?
Oh wow, because it's so interesting that this is coming up, because this whole time I was like, because we're very communicative with each other, and we've actually bonded over the fact that we've shared very similar life experiences at similar times. We're about the same age, maybe like a year apart, but we've gone through this similar trauma, and not a lot of people can relate to us, but we find that in each other. So we kind of understand each other in that way, but of course I'll never know, you know, um, everything about her, and that's totally fine. But I've kind of kept this going in the guise of, oh, this is healthy, and we do communicate a lot. Like we've both come from very unhealthy relationships, but every single time that, something comes up, we always work it out in a healthy way. And we're very aware of that and things like that, but I'm just not sure if this, route is the way to go. I mean, I'm happy to see her, and, I'm grateful that I get to experience those things with her, but I'm not sure if it's good for me, because I might get like really hurt, and if this is unhealthy, then, like maybe you're talking about, then maybe I need to start really, really evaluating, you know. And of course I'll be looking at chat for this, but
What was your childhood like? What were your parents like growing up?
I had my mom was always there for me. It was my dad that kind of was the problem, and he was a drinker, and he cheated on my mom several times, and there were several traumatic experiences through my childhood, just, through them fighting, like, me being like 3 or 4 years old and coming out from the bedroom at like 12 a.m. to see my mom throw like a like a baseball bat outside the back glass door. Like it was kind of a crazy childhood. They divorced when I was 8 years old, and my mom tells me that I always kind of went to my dad when he came home. I always missed him. I kind of had maybe abandonment issues with my dad because he was never home. He never told my mom where he was. Apparently he was always working, but we never know. Even to this day, I still talk to him, and I don't know where he works. I don't know where he lives, what he does. All my life, I'm 20 years old, and I have no idea, like, kind of who my dad is, except for what he's done. And that's kind of what my childhood was like, and,
I see. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot there in your childhood. It sounds like maybe that could be what's going on. Again, on such a short call, I don't know that we'll be able to get to all the specifics required to make like a good recommendation. I mean, oftentimes in therapy, even through years and years of therapy, our therapist is reluctant to give any kind of advice, and for good reason, unless someone asks. But if this person means enough to you that it might be worth investing in some therapy, some counseling, to determine how to move forward, maybe that would be a good idea. Or maybe do some self-searching to determine what kinds of people you're attracted to, and see what kind of scenario that brings about. Maybe that could help.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I've never thought about that before.
Well, I appreciate you calling in and sharing tonight in this way, and there's a bunch of good stuff in the chat for you to go dig through, and encourage you to call back anytime. Thanks for calling.
All right. Appreciate it. Stay safe.
Take care. All right. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm all right. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Kind of similar issues to the last caller. I got some boy problems. Before we get into that, I just want to give some advice to a previous caller, just like a little thing that's helped me.
Okay.
2 callers ago, I also have a abusive alcoholic father, and something that's really helped me is Al-Anon.
not exactly therapy, but it's like the equivalent Alcoholics Anonymous, but for the people who are the families of the alcoholics. And it really helped me come to terms, like how to deal with my dad and like our relationship and other things.
That's great.
So if they ever get a point in their life to go to that, I'd highly recommend it.
That's a great recommendation. Thanks for that. So can you share a little bit more about your issue?
Yeah, so this guy who I've been friends with for about 2 years now, we met in a university class. I'm still in university. We still are in school together, still friends and all that. And it was pre-pandemic. And at that time, he had a girlfriend, like long-term, and it was great because at that time I was also kind of identifying as asexual. Like I just really was not interested in sex in the slightest, which is kind of funny. But
okay.
Basically, we were friends, and we started like cuddling at some point. Then while he had a girlfriend, which to me was a little weird.
Yeah, even for someone who's asexual.
Yeah, well...
Not weird for you, but weird that he would cuddle with someone asexual even, is my point. Sorry.
Well, yeah, it was to me like, if I had a boyfriend, I would not want him cuddling with another girl, you know? And I just really liked it because I really like cuddling, and it's my favorite thing, waking up next to another person. It just sucks that a lot of that now is tied to sex and all that, which is something I think I can do if I really trust the person and like love them and all that, but haven't quite gotten there yet. And at the time when pre-pandemic, he asked to kiss me. Well, he still had his girlfriend. Ooh. And I didn't say no. I just asked, "Don't you have a girlfriend?" And that kind of ended it.
Yeah. So you're interested in this person? Sounds like a bad attraction.
Well, the thing is, like, I really wasn't at the time. And now, like, I do kind of, it's just like I want another person to want me, you know? Which is kind of sad. I mean, no, it's not sad, it's human.
It's not sad, yeah.
That. But, and we used to talk, like, all the time and all that, and pre-pandemic, when the pandemic first hit, we would, like, video chat every night and talk all the time. And then that kind of fell off, and I was scared coming back to university after the pandemic because his girlfriend had broken up with him during that. Because I think, well, she cheated on him in the past, which is a whole other thing. And then she's like, "I just lost feelings for you." So they broke up. And then I was afraid coming back to university, he'd want a relationship with me because I wasn't sure that's what I wanted. But now I know, I'm pretty sure he's physically attracted to me, but he doesn't like talk to me about things. And I guess I think we should just say friends, really, because, I mean, I can't seemingly bring up my feelings or what I want, and maybe that means I'm not ready for a relationship, but I don't know.
Kermit from the chat is saying, this guy is bad news. He will cheat on you, too. And I wasn't going to say it, but because Kermit did, I'm going to just double down on this. I think that is probably the most likely scenario based on the limited information you're sharing. I wouldn't invest too much into this.
I think that's completely fair, and I'm not looking for, like, a lifelong partner here. I was kind of hoping for, like, a first, like, test boyfriend. That sounds dumb, but, like, I've never been in a real relationship before. I'm essentially a 21-year-old virgin. I've kissed a guy twice in my past, and, like, I don't know. I thought I was ready for a relationship. I don't think, maybe I'm not. And yeah, he's had a whole lot of issues with cheating in the past. I'm not looking to get into that.
Yeah, this guy sounds like bad news, but I do wonder if there's something more to, you mentioned you were asexual, and it also sounds like you want a relationship. So I'm wondering what's there.
Well, I think part of it is coming because I do trust him. I mean, that sounds silly. I mean, it'd be hard to trust him in a relationship, but I trust him in that, like, we've cuddled a lot, and he's never really tried anything more, and I feel comfortable doing that with him. But yeah, I don't know.
How old are you?
Pardon?
You said you're 21, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think is there some intimacy issue you might have from your childhood?
Yeah, it is partially that. I did have you know, a traumatic one single experience as a child that was not okay. And I've talked to, I'm in therapy. I've talked to a lot of people about it. I've talked to a lot of people who've gone through way more, and my mom's gone through way more, and for the longest time, I was scared that I was asexual because of that or something, and now it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm really asexual. It's just sex is not something I think about or prioritize. But I think if I got into a relationship with someone I really trust and love, I might be able to do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, maybe sex is just something really serious to you. That sounds like the conditions have to be right. So, I mean, I don't think that means there's something wrong with you. I think it just means that you're trying to figure out what a productive relationship looks like for yourself. And I think that's normal, especially at your age. You still live at home with your family?
No, I'm actually in another state going to university. I'm calling because I don't have my mom to talk to. She's in Egypt right now.
Wow, your mom's in Egypt. Okay. Yeah, well, I think that I would just I hear you being really hard on yourself. I would just want to see that you're gonna, take a deep breath and just, be good to yourself. And sometimes I get that, what you're talking about. It's easy to think there's something really wrong with yourself, and we're surrounded by so many negative messages these days, and the world's getting really isolated, and so it's really easy to feel like there's something wrong with you. But I just want to hear you be kinder to yourself. Are you taking steps to be kind to yourself and to really?
Absolutely.
Good.
I'm handling this way better than I would like a couple of years ago. In fact, my therapy went down from once a week to once every 2 weeks. So I am making progress.
Good.
And someone in the chat mentioned demisexual, and I've heard that term before, and I do think I agree with that more than asexual. I just don't want to put a label on it at this point, because I think I've burned myself in the past by being like, yes, I am asexual, and then...
Yeah, labels are overrated.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everybody gets so hung up on labels. Well, thanks so much for calling in and sharing your story, and I hope that this has been helpful in some way. And is there anything else that you want to get off your chest or talk about?
In the chat. Oh, no, I just want to say thank you to everyone in the chat sending nice messages.
Great.
Oh, and also, love the B story music and your song July. I was born in July, and that's one of my all-time favorite songs.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Seriously, brings tears to my eyes. Love you.
Oh, thanks for calling tonight. Take care of yourself. All right, guys. Almost already 2 hours into this. Going to turn the calls back on. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, just wanted to get some stuff off my chest for stuff that I've been going through with work. Been in my job for about a year and a half, and really like my job. Just recently got a promotion, with really good pay raise. So everything's been really. Would like to think that things are really stable, and I had a great group of employees I was working with, and recently, the past few months, there's been a lot of change I've been going through. A lot of change that's been going through my workplace.
Okay.
We've, like my store that I work at, I know that a lot of people have had this issue. Maybe there's a lot of shortages going around for certain like products, and so there's a lot of stuff that at night we'll sell to customers and all that. So there's the stress of not being able to satisfy stuff for customers. But on top of that, there's been a lot of like changes. A lot of people have left the store that I've been really good friends with, and as of now, it's all brand new staff. My manager's brand new, assistant manager's new, all this sort of stuff. And over the past few months, I've kind of noticed that I've been getting really like agitated over like the little things, even the smallest things that are completely outside of my control. Um, I want to know if you and people in the chat uh, have any idea of like what I can do to, you know, get myself through this, this hurdle, all this change, all happening at once. So I don't know if you got any advice.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in the middle of a lot of turnover at your job, and you're not really maybe you're not really sure who to trust.
Yeah, because it feels like I'm starting at square one, starting at square one with all these brand new faces that I'm working with. I feel like I'm starting all over, like I'm starting all over as like day one, uh, with how when I started this job. It feels like I'm starting over, learning who they are, how I'm gonna work with them, how I'm gonna work as a team player with them. Um, so
Yeah, the world's under a lot. There's a lot of businesses who are they're short-staffed. I mean, I was in FedEx the other night, and FedEx had this sign set up saying they were short-staffed, and it's just crazy seeing that at a place like FedEx. It's like, they're asking customers to wait. It's like, isn't the word express in your name? I mean, I don't know. I'm not complaining, but it's just like that's what the world's under. And I'm just kind of trying to empathize with you that, there's a lot of change happening in the world right now. And, that can be scary. I've been there before where you're thrown into a million different situations, very quickly.
And it's not as much, it's not really that much that it's scary, it's that it's frustrating because I'm every day I come into work and I'm thinking to myself, I hope things are just gonna be normal. And with all the changes happening with the new staffing that I'm with, being at the store it's been like the past year or so, we've just been having a shortage of stuff that I can't give to the customers that they need. And there's a part of me that gets like frustrated about that. I know it's something that's completely out of my control, but it's also something that I really wish it was, because like I want to help people. I love helping people, and when I can't do that, or it and all I have is like I can't give you what you need. We don't have it in stock. I'm sorry, and and so it's on that, and people changing through my workplace. It's a lot of change all happening kind of at once that it's led me to be frustrated over the little things. And so
I hear it in your voice. Christine Abrell from the chat says, I think you're just burned out. My job has had so much constant change since COVID, and it just gets exhausting to feel like nothing really progresses, and it's just the same issues over and over. Does that sound like what you're going through?
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to accept the fact that I am burnt out, because I am. I mean, just today from work, I had just a real easy 6-hour shift, but I came back home and I was sore. I didn't do much, but I felt like internally sore, not like my legs were sore or anything like that. But I felt like, I guess, drained, just so to speak. But
Right. Yeah, this is why we're opening up these phone lines like this. There's so many people going through niche situations like this, because of where we are in the world. There's so many stressors in the world today, not least of which COVID, which we're still kind of mending from globally. Like I mentioned, even FedEx the other night was like telling customers to wait with this sign that said we're short-staffed, and I think that's just unbelievable to me. So it's a very real problem. I'm glad that you're calling and sharing. I hope it gives people motivation in their own lives. I'm sure many people are experiencing this on teams that are short-staffed. And, I commend you for caring about the people you're serving in your job. Not enough people, in my opinion, recognize that the value of a job is that you're serving people or you're helping people in some way. Everything that we do for work is either a product or a service of some kind that is there to help people. That's what we do when we work. We try to help people, and I just hear it. I've heard it from you a number of times that you're just really discouraged that you can't help the people in the way that you really want to, and I think that's really inspiring. I wish there were more people like you that I heard from that wanted to apply themselves to the level that you want to apply yourself. I think that's really inspiring. I think that's great. Great sign, in my opinion.
I appreciate your compliments. Like what you just said just put a good smile on my face, and and I hope not just for myself but for anyone else watching or in chat. For those of you who are dealing with shortages too, I hope this all just gets back to normal. Like we can all have everything we need for everyone else, and we can provide what people need. And it's just, I think it's just I'm one of the millions of voices joining in the cry of wanting normalcy.
Yeah.
It's just the drive for the want for normalcy feels like it just gets stronger every day, and maybe that's what's probably frustrating me, but that's just
Well, we all stand with you. I think that's very understandable, and glad you called in and shared. I hope this is inspiring for people to hear.
It has, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunities to talk to you about this. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for calling in. Take care. Going to take one more call, and then we'll take a short break. Turn on these phone lines here. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, wow. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you? What do you want to talk about?
So I have been in a relationship with my girlfriend for a few years, and over this time that we've been spending together, she's really been becoming like my best friend, which has been great, but I feel like we've been losing some of that intimacy as we've been becoming closer friends, and I've been wondering if that means that like it's time to maybe end things because the future relationship doesn't look the same as I had maybe once thought, but doing so means potentially losing my best friend, and that's really scary.
Yeah, that sounds scary. How old are you?
And I'm actually 27.
27. You've been with this girl for 3 years, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So when you say that things have become less intimate, what does that mean? Intimacy can mean a million different things, obviously.
Yeah. I think when you're in a relationship with someone, you naturally have that romantic feeling inside your heart that I don't know how, like, some people call it butterflies, but you kind of know what I mean, right? And I think, I understand that with time, like, you can't be in the honeymoon stage forever, but like arguments feel more frequent, and we don't feel as connected in a romantic way. And even though like we still love spending time with each other, it just sometimes feels like the romantic nature of the relationship is has been damaged, or like it just isn't as strong as it was when we first were together.
Well, if it's, this brings a bunch of questions to my mind. I'm thinking first and foremost that, I'm not a huge proponent of romanticism. I consider myself a romantic, but I'm not, maybe that's counterintuitive, but romanticism, like the stuff that we're raised, on with like Disney movies and stuff. Most kids today are raised on a bunch of these, like fairy tale ideals of relationship. And I'm very much not a believer that things turn out like fairy tales. Like, I think a lot of people get divorced too soon. I think a lot of people, I'm saying that as somebody who's divorced, by the way. A lot of people get divorced too soon. A lot of people who expect that their relationship is just supposed to be firecrackers until they're like 95 years old or something. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. But this is all to ask, like, again, like, is it that you guys aren't having sex anymore? Is it that you're, like, you don't feel close or understood by the person anymore? Or, is it that, there's no affection? What is it? You feel unsafe to share certain parts of your life with this person?
I guess it feels more like the future that I imagined with this person doesn't feel. I guess like it just doesn't feel like it's a possibility anymore. I think we're just we're different people in some ways, which I think I knew at the beginning of the relationship, but at this point, it just feels like, you know, it's really complicated and it's hard to go into to keep it kind of broad and vague, but um, basically, I've been doing a lot of growing in this time, and it doesn't feel like my partner's been doing a lot of growing, and I don't know. It just the relationship feels like a roller coaster where like sometimes, I really do feel like that romantic feeling with them, and then other times I have serious doubts about, the longevity of the relationship and if we're meant to, continue seeing each other. And just being up and down on this roller coaster is exhausting, and that makes me feel like maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, there's a lot of relational calls coming in tonight. Makes me wonder. So I might ask some repeat questions here, but since these kinds of calls are coming in, we're going to take them. So is there some kind of negative attraction that could be happening? Like you're attracted to something that's not good for you that maybe stems from childhood or something like that? Could that be a possibility?
I suppose there's always that possibility. I guess there are definitely some aspects to her personality that mirror close people who are close to me, like in a familial way, and maybe I'm more willing to put up with those things because I've had to put up with it through my family, and maybe I'm coming to a point in my life where I no longer feel like I should have to put up with those things. I suppose that is a possibility. But even if that's true, that doesn't change the fact that we've already built a foundation of a relationship, and saying goodbye to that is really the thing that's the scariest. Like everybody has their issues and their problems, but if I yeah, I've been thinking about this just for a really long time, and it feels like if I've been thinking about it for this long, maybe it's something that I need to act on. But like I said, the consequences of doing that are really scary because nobody wants to be alone.
Right. Yeah, leaving a relationship can be scary, no matter what kind of relationship it is.
And on top of that, it would mean hurting my best friend by saying that, hey, like, there's just aspects of this that I'm not satisfied with, and I think it's time to change the nature of the relationship. But, like, I still care very much for that person, so hurting them is also just a very scary proposition.
A lot of people in the chat are saying that it sounds like it's time for you to move on, and that maybe this person isn't a good match for you anymore. And I do feel like if I had to answer one way or the other, I would probably say the same thing. Now, I just want to reiterate that this is not a life advice. I'm not trying to get life advice here. I think the kinds of people we're trying to take calls from here, like I don't want this to be a place where we just give people really quick advice on what they should do, because on these kinds of calls, there will be cases where we may be able to help in some practical way with some kind of practical piece of advice, but I would hate to tell you, it's time to move on from this person, and then 10 years from now, like maybe you realize that person was a great fit for you. But from what you're sharing, that was a way of me for me to hedge what I'm about to say. But I do think that you're it sounds like you're in a relationship that you've outgrown, from what I'm hearing, and the chat seems to agree.
So, I guess the question I have for you, Julian, is does this inner growth warrant this kind of hurt for somebody that you care about? I mean, isn't it possible that they need more time to change as well? I mean, I guess you've already prefaced your statement by saying I could realize they made a mistake 10 years down the line, but
but then also within that, maybe this person is a great mate for you 10 years down the line, but maybe it takes some time apart for it to come to that. People change and grow based on what happens in life, and the things that happen to us impact us, and we learn things from them. It sounds like the situation you're in right now is not a productive one. That's what I keep coming back to. And I know it can be scary letting go of something or someone that's familiar, but maybe spend some more time unpacking this with friends and family who know you and maybe know the other person, and get some more feedback on what you've shared here. And there's a bunch of great feedback going out to you in the chat. I hope any of it's useful. There's people saying all kinds of things, so not all of us can be right. And again, we've only been talking for about 10 minutes here, so, I would just say to you...
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would just say that, I don't want to be quick to give any specific recommendation, but it does sound like you're in a situation that you've outgrown.
Yeah, it's not always easy to hear those words, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Psycho Syndrome, which is a name from the chat that seems odd for us to quote in this context, but they say, talk about it, communicate to her, and then decide. Yeah, and maybe it sounds like you may have already tried having some conversations with this person, but, what you shared here tonight, if you shared that with the other person, it seems like you would be able to expect some pretty concrete answers to come out of that. If you shared what you shared with us, if you shared with her what you shared with us tonight, it seems like that would be a good next step. And then you'll have your answer. You'll know if she's, you give it one last shot in conversation. Maybe.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for calling in. Chin up. Sounds like you're really down about this, and I know this can be scary, but try to see it. If it does end, try to see it as progress. Try to see it as a good thing. I mean, sometimes progress is painful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for calling in. Take care and call back anytime.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay. Gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right. Gonna pour some more lemon water here. It's quite refreshing. All right. Lines are open. Thanks for calling.
Hey.
Hi. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm in college right now, and it's finals week right now, actually. But I have ADHD, and it's kind of a constant struggle with schoolwork and trying to balance everything. And I feel like the way the world is right now, everything feels like compounding onto this. Like like so many things are like so messed up right now,
Right.
like in so many different ways, that it's hard to feel like what I'm doing is even useful or like gonna contribute anything. Like it feels like I'm putting all this work into struggling against my my own personal like difficulties, but like is it actually gonna contribute anything meaningful to anything or anyone, you know? That's kind of what's been going through my head for like the past month a lot, and difficult to find an answer to that, I guess.
What specifically do you feel like you're not able to contribute to? Sounds like you're feeling like, with the state of the world right now, you're not able to make a personal difference. In what way are you trying to make a personal difference? Sounds like you feel like you're banging your head against a wall.
I guess I feel like the way that the way that this country is structured, it's I don't know. I don't want to get into like specific politics or whatever, but like it feels almost like futile trying to work against a imperialist capitalist system that's really doesn't seem to have any interest in listening to anyone who, like, any of the struggles of its citizens, and so it's difficult to see how I can personally make any kind of difference in that system.
You sound really down about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit overwhelming sometimes, I think.
Right.
To think about.
I'm sure the ADHD doesn't help.
No, definitely not.
ADHD is really misunderstood. I've wondered if I have ADHD before. I'm not certain that's what it is now, but I definitely have something. Yeah. This is kind of a recurring theme. There's been a few different callers who've been wrestling with this sense of meaninglessness, nihilism, lack of faith in what America stands for on the global stage, and lacking to find, struggling with a lack of purpose. And I think that's perfectly understandable. I think we could talk about some of that stuff without getting super political. I don't think capitalism is political. It shouldn't be political.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There's no policy really that I'm rooting for when I say I'm definitely a capitalist. I'm not a person. You're not talking to someone who believes capitalism is a bad force. I'm for capitalism. I think it incentivizes entrepreneurialism. For a less evocative word, I would say it incentivizes good ideas to rise to the top. And I think we're up against a lot of stratification in America right now. We're up against a lot of it's really hard it's not as easy for good ideas to rise to the top, or for value to be immediately realized as it was a long time ago. But what's great about America is that what it's like to live here is constantly in flux because of democracy and votes and things like this. And it's a really dynamic place to live. I think it's one of the beautiful things about it. I don't know if any of these kinds of different ways of looking at it are encouraging to you, but even with all the crazy stuff happening in the world right now, I'm definitely someone who remains optimistic. I don't think we have a choice but to remain optimistic. I think if we give up hope, then we're going to stop applying ourselves. And we can't stop applying ourselves, even if it feels like it's not making a difference. It's a really hard time right now, of course. Really hard time. But what do you think as I'm saying those kinds of things?
I mean, I think you're, well, I guess to start, I mean, I don't agree with, like, me personally, I would consider myself an anti-capitalist for sure.
Okay.
So I don't definitely don't agree that capitalism is a contributing force to America, and I also, but I will say, the place that that the ideas that you were saying, I think that's kind of where I was, where my worldview was, maybe three years ago or so, and it's kind of pretty dramatically shifted since then. And I mean, I think it's difficult for me to have faith in the American system in general, because I see how many people on both sides are unsatisfied with the way that it works. The majority of people that I know, on either side, whether they're you know radical Republicans, hardcore pro-Trump Republicans, or super far left socialists, there's just critically unsatisfied with the way that the system has worked, and feel that it doesn't serve their interests. And so I feel like that's that just there's something that I feel like that's indicative that there's a problem, and it doesn't seem like democracy, the American form of democracy is really functioning as it should. It doesn't feel like people's voices are really being heard in a lot of ways, and so that's it. Disheartening, I guess, that I don't know a single person who is satisfied with the way that the country is being run.
Yeah, to be very clear, I'm not saying I'm satisfied with the way the country is being run. I'm also not here to talk about politics. I don't think that would be a useful
For sure.
I don't think that'd be a useful way to spend our time here. I'm trying to find some ways to, for those who are just tuning in or maybe confused what we're talking about, we have a caller who's struggling to find productive ways to apply themselves and struggling to find hope for their own life with the way recent events in the world have unfolded. So, we're just sitting here trying to support this caller in with any information or encouragement or even advice that people may have to share who've been to these places. And again, I'm not here to talk about politics, and I don't think you are either. But, to be very clear, I wasn't always a capitalist. So I'm very familiar with, this disenfranchisement, and it's been a regular theme on this show. I'm not sure how long you've been listening, and this is a pretty new show, so there's not that many episodes out yet, but already there have been a few callers who've been struggling with this feeling of disenfranchisement. And, I'll just try to have a conversation with you here, and hopefully it helps you feel encouraged and maybe gives you some hope for some practical steps and that you can apply tomorrow. Because I can tell that you're really having a hard time with this and that you've really thought about this. And I can also tell that you're someone who's done some homework on some things. So, I hear all of that, and I want to be really careful and sensitive to what you're going through. And it sounds like you want some ideas. And I hear someone that wants to be helpful. You're saying you're struggling, feeling how to figuring out how to apply yourself in productive ways when there's so much chaos in the world. And you seem to have some really strong convictions, so I'll just ask a real direct question. Do you think you'd have it better off in the woods without a civilization? And if not, it sounds like you're bordering on some anarchy tendencies, maybe there's no point in any of this. Am I off base in thinking that?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say I'm pro anarchy in any way. I think I'm.
What system makes you feel good? What system is there? A system that you feel drawn to that you could go join? I don't want to tell you to become an expat. Like, I'm not going to make that as a recommendation. It's a big change. But you know, like, is there a system that you might gravitate towards more that you've identified?
I think for me, it's it's hard to. I guess I feel like the I honestly my answer to that would be like right now not really. I don't have a specific like other country that I would you know, there are other countries that I feel like I would be better supported, you know, living in. But I don't think there's any system that I feel like is like perfect or like is exactly what I want that exists. And I mean that's unrealistic. Obviously, there's not going to be any perfect system. But,
how old are you?
I'm 20.
You're 20. Okay.
I think my feelings more that like is there am I going to be able to am I ever going to be actually like able to have my voice be heard, I guess, like I was saying before, like is there ever going to be I currently don't feel like I'm being very like my perspective, and this is like not just me saying like, oh, I'm not like the world doesn't care about me or whatever. It's like this is just conversations that I've had with other people. Like it feels like
are you a centrist?
A lot like no, I would consider myself pretty left.
You mentioned extremists on both sides of the aisle bothering you earlier. You mentioned extreme Democrats and extreme Republicans. So, so what is, you know, Democrats are definitely running things right now for better or worse, and Republicans, you know, we're in this season of America. I'm not sure. I don't want to insult your intelligence. It sounds like you've done a lot of homework, but just for the sake of recapping, you know. We've been in a season of extreme volatility in America. You know, there's been a lot of back and forth and change of hands of power between Republicans and Democrats. So, you know, and I'm just trying. I'm not looking to get political. I'm just trying to help you find some sense of peace and reassurance that, you know, there's a lot of people out there your age that are really in the same exact spot where you are, where you're just like, where they're just like giving up hope. I'm totally aware of that. It's a big reason why I want to do this is to, you know, take calls from people like you who are wrestling with these things. It's a big issue. I want to encourage anyone in that place, anyone, I'm not just talking to you on the phone here. I want to encourage anyone who may be in that place to consider that we're in a really strange time in America, and that, there's a lot of unique ideas that America stands for that are still great ideas on the global stage, objectively, with or without, even despite of a lot of the horrible things America is known for. You know, the good things of America, the good things it stands for, and the bad things that it's been known for are, you know, they're not joined at the hip. They're not mutually dependent on each other. So I think, you know, we're going through a radical shift, I think, right now, in a time of, you know, the internet is changing how people are thinking about trade and all kinds of things, and how we understand each other. The internet is this force that we're all being forced to deal with, and I'm not looking to turn you into a capitalist on the phone here. That's not what I'm saying. But I am a capitalist. I'm aware that a lot of people are struggling with that idea on the global stage and what that means for all of us. But I do just want to encourage everyone listening, and then we'll get back to your specific issue. But just as to the chat and to anyone listening and to you on the phone, I just want to encourage you that, just to remain open-minded, because as you get older and learn more about what's behind what's important to you, maybe you'll find yourself in a not too dissimilar place, but in a place where you can be hopeful about America. I think we're and the world in general, not just America. It's a scary place, the world right now, but it doesn't mean it always will be. I don't think it'll always be this confusing. We're just in a place where there's so much information. People don't know what to believe about what's true. And these huge institutions are losing authority. They're doing it to themselves through bad business models. And it's a really confusing time to be alive. But I do think it's going to get a lot better. I don't know if that's what you need to hear or if I'm off base, but I just want to encourage anybody who's going through this kind of thing. That's something that's really important to me and something I believe really strongly. So again, I might have been off base in saying that, but it just seemed relevant.
No, I mean, I appreciate, I always appreciate an optimistic perspective. I think I try my best a lot of times to stay optimistic about the ability that people have to influence change in the world. I think, I guess, speaking in a more specific, like, speaking to my life, I guess more specifically, I feel like a lot of the past past 2 years, I guess, has really kind of shaken up a lot of my my plans for my life in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of the genesis of this kind of confusion and sort of hopeless kind of feeling that it kind of creeps in, because initially my plans have been pretty specific. I'm going to school for English right now. Planning on initially I was planning on teaching high school actually, but I kind of have my brother actually is currently a high school English teacher as well, and he has really struggled in his like just with the system, the education system, finding resources for his kids and finding resources for himself, honestly. It's kind of that specifically is kind of disheartening to me and made me really rethink a lot of my plans for the future, because I kind of had this idea of what being a teacher would be like, without having experience in it, and I think being faced with kind of more of the reality of working in that system kind of has discouraged me a little bit, because I feel like it'll burn me out. I feel like I'll put everything I have into it, and
a lot of people are burned out right now. That's very normal to feel that way.
Yeah, I feel like I'll get, sucked into the system and spat back out and not really be able to find my niche.
Well, I just want to encourage you to continue applying yourself. I know that this is a really confusing time. I can't imagine being 20 years old right now. It's such a, I just remember where I was when I was 20 and just trying to think about navigating this world at that age right now. It's a big reason I've started this format, to just talk with people, not just about the state of the world right now, but, it's a big, like I said, it's a big part of it. And so I'm really glad you called in. I do think that, it would be the bigger tragedy would be if we don't keep applying ourselves. Don't you think that's a lot worse for the world if we can't be excited about applying ourselves and finding solutions to everyday problems for ourselves and for other people that we're trading with or working for? Don't you think that's a much worse world to live in? The whole world is, the whole civilized world is propped up on agreements of people who will trade with each other and work with each other and collaborate and build solutions to problems. And if we can't remain excited about that, it doesn't matter where you live or what kind of politics you believe in or what economic system you believe in. If you don't, if you're not excited about applying yourself and being useful to other people in collaboration, then you might be better off being a forager.
I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think you make a good point. I think maybe I could shift my focus a little bit towards my own circle, my own abilities, and maybe try to I guess focus more on what I can do in the moment. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm I'll it's a good motivation for me to keep working on this paper that I have.
Great. I love to hear that. That's what I was hoping I'd hear. Amazing. That makes me happy to hear that. You sound like a smart guy. I'm really sorry that you're struggling with some of these thoughts. I know it's a really confusing time. I'm so glad you called in and shared, because this is something a lot of people are feeling. And people aren't, just to be very clear, I don't believe people just like you are feeling this way. You mentioned you identify more as a Democrat. I don't think people who just identify with Democratic ideals are feeling this way. I think there's a lot of Republicans feeling this way. I think there's a lot of centrists feeling this way. I think there's a lot of people outside of America feeling this way. And so I'm really glad you called in and shared. I hope you find some encouragement from the chat. And yeah, thanks for calling and sharing. Call back anytime.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, we have 25 minutes till midnight. Gonna open up these phone lines here in just a second, take a couple more calls and see what happens. Thank you to the chat for being useful. And with that, we're gonna dive right back in. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, snap. Yo, what's up?
Hi. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. I guess life. Yeah, it's weird. I was just like late night on YouTube, and I saw your channel, and when I was a kid, I really loved your videos. They made me very, you kind of reminded me of my childhood, and I guess after I moved away from that, I was trying to think on that. I guess as kind of remembering the better times, and it becomes kind of hard to remember that. My father, he passed away, and we had to move, and it was really hard dealing with that. So,
what's your problem you want to talk about tonight? I'm sorry if I'm not understanding.
Sorry. I guess I just get into it. I struggle with, I guess, committing. I guess some of the callers express concerns with like ADHD, and I talked to my doctor. I finally got that out. I always had a hard time, I guess, trying to say that, because if if I do have ADHD or ADD, that I can get help. But if I don't, then what's wrong with me? I don't know. And I've been thinking about, I guess, this anonymous. It makes it a little easier to talk about. That's kind of why I called.
Can you be more specific about what the issue is? You mentioned a commitment issue. What else is there, and what else is there to the commitment issue?
I find it. I find it hard to just enjoy more of life. So, like, even the things I like to do, I don't find enjoying in them anymore.
How old are you?
I'm 17. Sorry if I've wasted time.
That's okay. So is the commitment issue a part of this, or is it that you don't? What's the reason for the call tonight? Is it that is it all of it? Is there a commitment issue, or is there an issue finding meaning in life, or enjoying things in life?
I don't know. I'm gonna just end the call. Chat doesn't like seem to want the kids to move on.
No, what is it? Oh man, he hung up. I wasn't trying to discourage you. The chat and I weren't trying to discourage you. I encourage you, whoever you were, to spend some time preparing some kind of opening statement to lead into a conversation. And if you'll prepare that and call back, we're happy to hear you out. Don't hang up. All right. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I wasn't expecting a natural answer. No. I know you got a lot of callers.
Yeah, it's been a good night. What do you want to talk about?
Just so I don't waste your time or anything, to make it quick is I have, you don't mind me talking about like a diagnosis I have, right?
That's fine. Just no names and no personally identifying information, please.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I have the fear factor of that I might be inconsolable because I have chronic PTSD from a very severe situation that happened when I was younger. Because I was in like a whole human trafficking thing, like when I was like 13 to 14.
Wow.
But yeah.
So you
sorry, I don't know. Yeah.
You're dealing with some PTSD.
Yeah.
And how is that holding you back? How's that affecting you?
Like, 'cause it does with like pedophilia and like grooming and all that. Like how everyone deals with like romantic relationships, intimacy. I'm a coder and programmer. I try doing like cybersecurity stuff, IT work.
Okay.
And it really, like, my own passion makes me reflect back to the reason why I started doing it, and it was because what happened to me. And it's been harder since COVID happened because it gave me really more time to actually indulge into those thoughts and what happened to me. And it made me like realize more of what actually happened rather than pushing it off for so many years.
Can you share a bit more about your story and what happened?
Yeah. So, and I'll try to make it brief for you for time's sake.
That's fine.
So
Take your
when
time.
I was 13, played online games. I was very isolated. I was the youngest of 7 older siblings, so my family had a lot of kids to worry about. So it's hard to focus individually on them and try to help them grow when they already have their own stuff and work and everything. So I was very isolated, as weird as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So games were my online source. I met the person playing Halo Reach, oddly enough, talked through there, became my quote unquote friend. And at the time, I got my first ever phone. So making a social interaction that wasn't, middle school harassment, getting bullied and all that, it felt great. So it built a quote unquote trust system. And then it went to, comfort with sending quote unquote, normal pictures, and it evolved into video chats, all that stuff, threatening the family if I don't do certain things. And I'm sorry if this is like, I don't want to make it too like explicit for your sake and
No,
other people in the chat.
it's fine.
But
What
that
happened?
happened, and then he came all the way to where I lived to meet me in person, and then next thing I know, I'm in this place, soundproofed walls and everything, and uh, it's, yeah, it was just bad from there. I've had to see someone at the age of 14 who was a female pass away or die in front of me on how severe the situation, the scenario was.
Were you molested?
Traumatic.
I'm sorry, I'm not following. Was there some kind of physical abuse or sexual abuse that happened?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Sorry, I'll be more open. I didn't know if I shouldn't. But yeah, we were groomed, raped, and like physically abused there. And if you didn't follow like their rules and all that stuff, they recorded child pornography of us, and it was just very, very. I don't know. It was just very hard, and it's messed up my life ever since, because once I made it home and actually quote unquote got labeled as a survivor from like my like other friends who got out, we weren't dropped off exactly at our homes too. Most of us just remember waking up at a random person's doorstep near our streets and just underwear and a blanket, and yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I never told. Oh, sorry. What?
I'm just reacting. I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm so sorry. So this was a person that you met on a chat room, or you met them on playing Halo, and then they pretended to be your age, I guess, and then they groomed you.
And they were 18 when they clearly weren't.
I see. And then they got you somehow to their own house or some place that was soundproofed, you mentioned, and then they were abusing kids in this place. Is that right?
Yeah, it looked like like I don't know if it was like a studio apartment or like a big hotel room, but if anything, I would think nowadays it probably was like some studio, kind of like it wasn't small.
Right. My goodness.
But yeah.
How many years has it been since this happened, since you got out of this?
I'm 22 years old right now. So if we go with the years, it was in 2013, so I was 13 years old, and I made it out alive at the age of 14, but it was also nearing my birthday anyways, so it's not like I was there for a drastic time, and I can't give you a specific time of when I was, in there to out. I sadly don't know. I would think maybe half a week to a week.
Offcore from the chat says you may need to speak with real professionals about many. I'm paraphrasing about much of what you went through. Heart-wrenching story, my friend, and I agree. Have you seen a counselor about this? Have you spent time processing this with a professional? Okay, good.
Once COVID released, on the lockdown, I tried ASAP to seek therapy because most of my closest friends ever that made it out, they sadly took their own lives because they just couldn't live with it, and yeah.
Friend of yours.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's what this is for. Please share as much as you're comfortable with sharing. This is such an extreme story.
I'm really grateful that you're listening, and I'm very thankful to Offcore and the chat and the rest of everyone else, and I'm thank you for listening, and whoever's ever gone through this, please know that you're not alone. Never forget that, and know that a lot of people care about you, and it's not worth it. It's not worth taking your own life. It hurts so many people.
Thank you for saying that. I agree with you 100%. It's never worth taking your life for any reason. Sounds like these people that you knew that died by suicide were in really dark places, and they were confused, and it makes me wonder how you're doing. Have you I know a lot of people that go through this experience a sense of guilt somehow from the events that and I'm wondering if you've moved past that and you've made progress past that, or if that's something you struggle with, and just generally how you're doing.
I guess it's very difficult, and like I said from the very beginning, I just worry that it's inconsolable, that I won't be able to fully recover from it, and I just sorry, my head's just blanking out from it.
Well, you raise a fascinating point, which is that, we go through things in life and we don't know why they happen sometimes. Even the good things in life, we don't know why they happen. There is some reason behind some of these things, but a lot of things in life, we just don't know why they happen. And it can be confusing and hard to deal with. I can relate with that feeling that you might be carrying something. I've never been molested. I've never been in that situation, but I have had friends who've gone through that.
I'm happy you've never been. Sorry for talking over you. Continue.
Yeah, I'm send you so much love and empathy, and I'm so sorry to hear your story. I hate that these kinds of things happen to people. I have gone through really difficult things in my life, things that seem unshakable, things that seem like they'll stick with me forever. So far in my life, I'm in my mid-30s now. Some things, if it's helpful to hear, some things in my life have gotten easier and become non-issues, and other things I have carried with me for a long time. I do think sometimes we go through things in life that continue to come with us wherever we go. I don't think that means it always has to hold us down or weigh us down, but they help us shape our character. And, it's hard to, I don't know if you're watching right now or if you can see this desk. It's actually really hard to appreciate this desk with this camera angle I've chosen. But I had this desk made out of a piece of spalted maple. And for those who don't know what spalted maple is, it's when wood is spalted, it means it's been invaded by fungus. And spalted wood gives off this really unique color and these unique patterns. And it's very rare, and it's sought after. If you can find a piece of spalted maple that hasn't died, the fungus hasn't completely overtaken it. It's like a beautiful thing. It's rare. It's kind of a novelty. And I've chosen this, again, I know it's hard to tell on camera, but it's part of the reason I've chosen this piece of wood for this desk, for this show, is that there are things we go through in life like this where we don't know how long we'll be carrying them with us for, but I do believe they ultimately, no matter what they are that we go through, these kinds of things help shape our character. And I can tell from talking to you, you're someone who's been through a lot, and you're someone who has learned a lot, and I imagine that you've had to ask a lot of really hard questions through this process. And I wonder if what kind of support system you have. Do you have, is your family there for you in the ways that you need? Do you have people that you can talk to about hard things and get support? Do you have a support system of any kind?
Yeah. I have a significant other,
That's great.
and my family too, of course, but I don't like bothering them too much because they're all older than me and they're doing their own things, kids and everything. I would like them to solely focus on themselves because, we're all struggling, we're all dealing. But my father, my stepmother, and my girlfriend, they are extreme pillars for me that keep me up and keep me waking up each day and
Great.
knowing that I can still contribute, big or small.
That's amazing. Do you know people from this incident that survived and that can kind of be like support partners for you in some way?
Sadly not.
So you're the only one that survived this.
I had
Take your time.
5 other friends, and after 3 years of the incident, starting 2017, Christmas Eve, one of my friends, she was only 17, took her life, and then another friend, and then another friend every single year. And
So
the
you've
last
lost multiple
one
friends to this.
was in 2020.
My goodness. So you're the
that's
only
why-
survivor.
Hmm?
You're the only survivor. Is that right?
Yeah, and then I just had to sit with this during lockdown after acceptance of what happened.
Oh, you are amazing. You've survived something that it sounds like more than a few people didn't make it through. It sounds like you're the lone survivor of this horrible incident, and that you not only survived through the incident, but you made it through lockdown alone. You're an incredibly strong person from the sound of it.
Thank you.
Do you have what you need
Sorry,
around you right now?
Hmm?
Do you have everything you need around you right now?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm good. I'm sorry. Just talking about it makes me just very raw. It's like it's something not easy.
You're so strong, and I'm seeing the chat light up, echoing that. And I want to tell you, you're not alone. I know that you're the one that said that to the chat, and you were trying to be encouraging, but I hope you know that you're not alone. It sounds like you do know that, but I'm so glad that you called in and shared with us in this way, even though not all of us have been through what you've been through. Most of us have been through something that's difficult, and like your case is extreme, and I hope this is helpful for people to hear within context of their own problems, and also I'm glad to hear that it helped you at least sort through some of these feelings by sharing. Is there anything else you want to talk about or get off your chest? I'm also wondering, sorry to throw so much at you at once, but I'm wondering, like, how are how are you doing with like your intimate relationships? Have you been able to find a partner or someone that how's that been for you?
My first relationship, we dated for 2.5 years, but I never told her about it. Again, I kept it extremely, like, I felt bad, so I broke it off with her because I felt like I was a million miles away from her, even knowing I was right next to her, and I knew she didn't deserve that, so I broke that off. But then I took back from relationships but now 1 year strong with this amazing woman I'm with now. She's a part of my world, and I told her almost everything that happened in way more detail, of course, because you can't really put in this much time.
Right.
And she's always been there for me anytime, whatever I need and whatever she needs. We both help each other grow extremely and help each other push forward as much as we can. And I'm extremely humble and grateful for her. And thank you for letting me get this off my chest a bit.
Thank you so much for calling and sharing. I know I'm not alone in appreciating this level of candidness. It takes a lot of bravery to call in, even if it's anonymous, and to just share what you've shared. And I'm just blown away by your story and how strong you must be to have gotten through that. I hope that the chat and I can continue to support you. After this call, go through and read all the messages that are going out to you right now and all the love. And I hope that you'll call back if you ever need anything else in the future, even if it's just a vent. Anytime.
Of course. And I'll go back to the chat and try to read as much as I can, because I do apologize to everyone who I did not read yet. And thank you again to everyone else in the chat who's been messaging and pouring their heart out. I can tell that there's a lot of love, and keep that and keep sharing it. And just know that whoever's gone through this, and if you haven't spoken up, know you're strong too. You're not alone. And thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Same to you. Thank you for calling. Good night. You know, he's right. And, you know, there's so many things in the world that are going wrong right now. I guess it's a big theme of this show, whether it's a pandemic or a governmental system that's not, you know, fulfilling every individual, or if it's broken people doing horrendous things to younger people, or, you know, taking advantage of people in any way. Like, there's all these horrible things happen in life. And I'm just blown away at the positive place we're building here, and just watching and how everyone in the chat is supporting each other, and all these callers that are calling in. You know, it takes a lot of effort to listen to someone and to empathize and to try to, you know, make it a valuable interaction. That takes a lot of work, and I'm just amazed that this chat is giving all these callers their full attention and all their support and love. It's just, I think it's such a meaningful thing to build this place in this time where there's a lot of people out there who are really confused and just need to. I think it's encouraging to see how human we all are. You know, a lot of people are going through very similar things. All right, guys, that was it for tonight. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting these callers again. And I'm seeing all these chats coming in. I am going through a really busy season of life right now, settling into a new house. I just spent my last few days unpacking and cleaning and all that good stuff. So I'm pretty zonked, but I'm really enjoying this time with you guys, and appreciative of all the positivity that's coming out of it. So thanks for digging in with me. And I will see you guys here again on Tuesday. Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Central. And I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. We had a relatively low toast count tonight. I think there was only one toast. What has happened to all the trolls? The trolls have backed off. They're getting intimidated by all this meaningfulness we're sharing. We're grossing them out, maybe. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. Take care. Thanks again.